Good morning, students. In the last class, we have discussed different types of enthalpies. There are some problems on each enthalpies that will be discussed after the completion of theory. Separate videos will be made to explain the problems. So, moving forward, let us know what are the limitations of first law of thermodynamics. As you know, first law of thermodynamics states that the energy neither created nor destroyed. One form of energy is converted into another form of energy. That is first law of thermodynamics. In other words, we can say that the energy of the isolated system is constant. Or we can say that the total energy is equals to energy of the system plus the energy of the surrounding. In different way we are going to state first law of thermodynamics. Or mathematically we can say that change in internal energy, that is delta U, is equals to Q plus W, where Q is amount of heat energy absorbed or released and W is the work done on the system or by the system. Okay, this is first law of thermodynamics. Now let us know what do you mean by, what are the limitations of first law of thermodynamics. Limitation means the condition where we are unable to answer the questions. If I propose some law and it will not be accepted by all the people, they are going to discuss with me. During discussion they may ask some questions, they may ask some doubts. If those doubts are unable to answer by me, then my limitations will start. If I am taking the class, if you get some doubts, if I am unable to answer your doubts, then that will be my limitation. So limitation nothing but the condition where I am unable to answer your questions. Here also, limitations of first law of thermodynamics means where first law of thermodynamics is unable to answer the doubts arised by other people. Okay, first one. First law of thermodynamics could not explain spontaneity or feasibility of reaction. First law of thermodynamics related the different forms of energies, their equivalence, how much energy is lost, how much energy is gained, energy equivalence they mentioned, but the first law could not explain spontaneity of the reaction or feasibility of the reaction. Why the process is occurring, reason for the process, why the heat is flowing from the system to surrounding, if system is at high temperature compared to surrounding, why it is happening, that is not explained. That is first law, that is limitation. Second, first law of thermodynamics does not tell about flow of heat energy from lower temperature to higher temperature. Energy is flowing from high temperature to lower temperature, but why not heat energy is flowing from low temperature to higher temperature? Why not cold body transfer heat energy to the body at high temperature? Why it is not possible? That is not explained by first law. Then first law of thermodynamics does not tell whether a gas can diffuse from a low pressure to high pressure. For example, if we have cylinder, if cylinder is at high pressure, if we open the nozzle, what happens? The gas will diffuse, the gas will effuse and it will mix with air. Here the gas is at high pressure in the cylinder and it is possible. If we have an empty cylinder, that is zero pressure cylinder, if we place it, why not gas is not entering into the cylinder? It is not explained by first law of thermodynamics. In general, we can say that first law of thermodynamics does not explain the spontaneity of the reaction or feasibility of a reaction. Why the reaction or why the process will occur? Why not some process do not occur? Means these doubts are not cleared by first law of thermodynamics. So these are the some limitations of first law of thermodynamics. Okay. Before going to the further, let us second law or third law, let us know some types of processes or reactions. There are so many processes are there. Already you studied isothermal process, adiabatic process, isobaric process, isochoric process, reversible process, cyclic process, different process, you know. In those process, there are so many processes are there, so many reactions are there. Broadly, we are classifying these reactions as two categories, that is spontaneous process and non-spontaneous process. Spontaneous process means the process which occur itself and does not require any external agency. The process which occur itself without external agency is required. Such type of processes are called spontaneous process. Understood? There is some stone on the uphill. If we push it, immediately it will come down. It is a spontaneous process. Continuous effort, continuous external agency is not required. So this is a spontaneous process. Spontaneous process nothing but the process which occur itself without any external agency, it will occur. Second example, we have an overhead tank. The water flow from overhead tank to your tap spontaneously. There is no external agency is required. So it is also one of the spontaneous process. It means that spontaneous process nothing but the process which occur itself and it does not require, or sometimes it does not require external agency, but initiation of the process is required. Means we have to start the process. Some process without starting they cannot spontaneous. Okay. Second one, non-spontaneous process. Non-spontaneous process means the process which does not occur itself and require external agency to proceed are called non-spontaneous process. For example, if we want to fill our overhead tank, then we require motor. Without motor, we cannot fill it. If we off the motor, the flow of water into the tank will stop. It means for filling our overhead tank, continuously an external agency is required. So it is a non-spontaneous process. Understood? Non-spontaneous process means the process which does not occur itself and require external agency to proceed. Then such processes are called non-spontaneous process. Okay, I think you understood that. There are some reactions are there, some examples are there for spontaneous processes. Dissolution of common salt. Whenever we put some salt in water, it dissolves spontaneously without any external agency. the crystals will be dissolved. So it is a spontaneous process. Evaporation of water is a spontaneous process. Flow of heat from hot body to a cold body is a spontaneous process. Flow of water down a hill is a spontaneous process. Combination of nitric oxide and oxygen to give nitrogen dioxide is a spontaneous process. Combination of hydrogen and iodine to give hydrogen iodide is a spontaneous process. Here the external agency is not required, so we call these processes as spontaneous process. Okay, there are some non-spontaneous processes. They are flow of heat from cold body to hot body, non-spontaneous. Diffusion of gas from low pressure to high pressure is a non-spontaneous. Flow of water into overhead tank from the well is a non-spontaneous process. Means so many examples we can give for spontaneous as well as non-spontaneous process. Okay. Next, reasons for spontaneity of a reaction. Why some reactions are spontaneous, why some reaction are non-spontaneous, or why some processes are spontaneous, why some processes are non-spontaneous. What are the reason for the spontaneity of the reaction? Let us know one by one. Already I told you about the driving force. Driving force means the force which is responsible to drive a particular process or a reaction in a particular direction. That force is nothing but driving force. Driving force means it is a force responsible for driving a particular reaction or process in a particular direction. Understood? Means there must be some force responsible for that reaction, responsible for the process. That force is nothing but driving force. Okay, you are riding a bicycle, your energy, your body, your force is the driving force. Understood? It means the force which is responsible for that is nothing but driving force. Then what is the nature of the driving force? Let us know. We have seen many different spontaneous process. One by one, let us know. Dissolution of common salt in water. Whenever we put some crystals of salt in water, it dissolves slowly. It means it is a spontaneous process. It does not require any external agency. Second one, evaporation of water in open vessel. And third one, flow of heat from hot end to cold end. Flow of water down a hill means whenever we observe many systems which are undergoing spontaneous process, we come to know that the system has the tendency to make its minimum energy. The system is always trying to minimize its potential energy or minimize its energy. So here the driving force, the nature of the driving force is that it will drive the process in a certain direction where the system is going to be acquire a minimum energy. Okay, there are three persons are there. One person is normal, his BMI is normal. Another person is obese, another person is very thin. First person is healthy and second person is obese. It means he has higher potential energy compared to the first person, and Third person is lack of energy. His potential energy is not reaching to the minimum energy. So whenever we consider this, person 1 is more stable compared to person 2 and 3. Person 2 will be stable whenever he loses his energy. Means whenever he makes his potential energy minimum, then only the person is stable, the person will survive. So the driving force for a healthy life always drives towards the minimum energy. Understood? Means I am going to say that the system which is at high potential energy, that system is unstable. To get stability, the system always tries to minimize its energy. So it is the nature of all natural process is that it drive all the process towards a minimum energy. So this is one condition. Means the system is always trying or driving the process towards minimum energy. This is one condition. Okay, let us discuss some natural process where the processes are spontaneous. A stone lying at a height has a tendency to fall down so as to have minimum potential energy. As you know that potential energy is given by m into g into h. M mass of the body, g acceleration due to gravity, h height of the body. Height from the ground. As the height from the ground goes on increase, potential energy also increase. So whenever we put a stone at a certain height, it always tries to fall down because to make its energy minimum. But stone is not jumping to the first floor or second floor automatically by itself. Here the potential energy it has to increase. So it is a non-spontaneous process. Falling down of a stone from a certain height is a spontaneous, or jumping a stone from ground to a certain height is a non-spontaneous. Okay. Second one, water flows down a hill. On the top of the hill, the water has maximum potential energy or higher potential energy. It flows down because to minimize its potential energy. So here also energy is decreasing during the process. Third, heat flows from hot body to cold body. Hot body has higher energy, higher heat energy. Cold body, lower heat energy. So it will transfer or it will minimize its energy just by transferring. So the transfer of heat from hot body to cold body is also a spontaneous process. Here some reactions are there, that is combination of hydrogen with oxygen to give water, and delta H is minus 285.8 kilojoules per mole. Means during the formation of water, energy is released. It means that the enthalpy of the product is less than enthalpy of the reactant. It means reactants are at higher energy whereas product is at lower energy. So the reaction always proceeds towards the lower energy, that is negative enthalpy. Understood? Second reaction, that is carbon combines with oxygen to give carbon dioxide. Here enthalpy of the reaction is also negative. It means that enthalpy of the product is less compared to the enthalpy of the reactant. So here also the reaction is driving towards the minimum potential energy, or the reaction is proceeding towards the minimum energy. So all exothermic reactions, the process is driving towards the lower energy. So by observation we can say that The reactions which are exothermic, those reactions are spontaneous reactions. Hence, it can be concluded that driving force drive the process or reaction to attain minimum energy or negative value of enthalpy. Any reaction, any process, if it has a negative value for its enthalpy, then those reactions are spontaneous reactions. Okay, now limitations of criterion for minimum energy. Now we have discussed some examples where the system is losing or system is attaining a minimum energy or enthalpy of the reaction is negative, that is exothermic reactions. But this criteria has some limitations. Means the system which gains a minimum potential energy or minimum energy, that will be a spontaneous process. That may be wrong for some examples. Even though the reactions are endothermic, but they are spontaneous. For example, evaporation of water or melting of ice. During evaporation of water, we are supplying heat energy. It means the system is attaining higher potential energy, but the reaction is proceeding. So, this reaction is also a spontaneous. For example, evaporation of water means liquid water is converting into gaseous water or water vapors. During that process, it is absorbing heat energy from the surrounding. Even though system is gaining higher energy, but the process is spontaneous, so it is also spontaneous process. Okay, next, second one, conversion of freezing, melting of ice. During melting of ice, we are supplying heat energy, so this much amount of heat energy is absorbed. Even though process is endothermic, but it is spontaneous. It means in both the conditions, the system is attaining higher potential energy, but they are spontaneous. Second one, dissolution of ammonium chloride, potassium chloride, which are endothermic. Whenever you dissolve ammonium chloride crystals or potassium chloride crystals, they absorb heat energy. The process is endothermic, but even though endothermic, the process is occurring. Third one, decomposition of calcium carbonate. During decomposition, it is also spontaneous reaction, but during this process we are supplying heat energy. This much amount of heat energy is absorbed, so it is also a spontaneous. Next, there are some reactions whose delta H equals to 0 but still spontaneous. There are so many reactions whose delta H value is 0. It means there is no change in enthalpy. Even though there is no change in enthalpy, but they are spontaneous. Example, acetic acid when reacts with ethyl alcohol, there is formation of ester, and during this reaction delta H value is 0, but the reaction is spontaneous. Then next one, expansion of ideal gas into vacuum. If the system is evacuated or the system is completely the system has adiabatic wall, then Q equals to 0. Then work done in the vacuum is 0 because P external value is 0. Already I told you the work done in vacuum is 0 because P external pressure is 0. So work done is also 0. Q is also 0. Then delta equals to 0 plus 0. This is equals to 0. It means there is no change in enthalpy. Delta H value is also 0. So even though delta H value is 0, even though delta H value is positive, but those reactions are spontaneous. Why they are spontaneous, it is unable to answer. So these are the limitations. Next one, reversible reactions also occur spontaneously. I think you know that if the forward reaction is endothermic, then backward reaction must be an exothermic. For example, combination of hydrogen and iodine to give hydrogen iodide is a endothermic reaction. But the reversible process is also possible, that is combination of or decomposition of hydrogen iodide to give hydrogen and iodine is an exothermic reaction. Means by all these examples we come to know that delta H, that is enthalpy, negative enthalpy or energy factor, not only decide to predict spontaneity of the reaction or feasibility of the reaction. It means that decrease in potential energy of the system or negative enthalpy of the system is not going to decide spontaneity of a reaction. It is not only depend upon this factor, that is energy factor or enthalpy factor. There must be some other factor which leads a spontaneity of the reaction. That will be discussed in the next class. Okay, thank you.